So yeah, I guess while Jay Winter fixes his mic, introduce a bit about myself and Amun, and I'll let James introduce himself. I'm Tyler. I am currently the marketing manager at Amun. What Amun is, like quick 2 seconds, is essentially we make these basket tokens or index tokens, very similar to DPI. You guys know what that is? If you don't, it's essentially one token that consists of 5 to 10 other tokens that rebalance regularly. So very similar to ETFs. If you look at retirement funds, it'll be like 40% in the US stock market, 20% international stock market, 20% bonds, whatever. And then it rebalances and you don't have to touch it 60 years old. They call it like the 2050 target date funds.
Thank you guys for coming on. We have Tyler Koch here, who is the marketing manager at Amun, and James, who I don't know what James does at him. He was a last minute addition, but we're happy to have him on too. Do you guys want to start by giving a little bit of background about yourselves and how you ended up at Amun and what you do there?
Yeah, for sure. So I really got involved into crypto in about 2017 when Bitcoin was like $1,000. And then, of course, with the CryptoKitties craze and Ethereum taking off at the end of 2017, I was going to school for mechanical engineering and just did that for the next like 3 years to 2020 until I graduated. And then bull run started around then. Got really involved into crypto, really involved into Binance Smart Chain things like yield farming, and then got interested in Polygon, which is another layer 2 thing to Ethereum, because Ethereum gas fees were just exploding. I thought the future was going to be these layer 2s, these cheap transactions. And I still think it is, but they haven't taken off as much as I thought they would. I started working at a decentralized exchange on Polygon. It's called QuickSwap. It's a fork of Uniswap from Ethereum. I was head of listings there. And then Moon reached out and they said they're building these index tokens, very similar to traditional finance, like indexes or ETFs. And I was like, man, that's going to be like even bigger than any one of these layer 2s. Yeah, hopped on board to do the marketing. I'll let James introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm James. I joined Amun about a year ago, and I got interested in crypto about 2015, 2016. So that wave when Bitcoin was getting interesting, Ethereum just launched. My friend Chris Bernisky, I worked with him at ARK Invest at the time, and he was focused 100% on crypto. He was absolutely down the rabbit hole. But I wasn't super down into the rabbit hole yet, because that cycle was very much about theory and economics and a bunch of minutia in Bitcoin, like SegWit and like just wars on the Bitcoin block size, which was very boring to me, but consumed all the mental capacity of the people at the time. But it seemed like a good idea at a very high level. That's when I first got in, but haven't been involved since actively until 2020, when DeFi summer blew up and crypto actually became useful with DeFi and NFTs. I decided this is probably where the next wave is and wanted to do something in this space. I just researched crypto for a couple of months and joined Amun quickly after that. The premise of the company, I think, is very simple and very clear. We saw what ETFs did for traditional finance in just bringing accessible investment products to everyone, so you don't have to have an opinion on Starbucks versus Amazon. Most Americans, most people in the developed world use these kind of funds to get diversified exposure. Crypto today is still very early, of course. So most people are just early degens speculating on one coin or another. But as it matures, most people are going to want some kind of product that does this for them in their sleep. So ETFs are a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and if crypto really takes over finance, it stands to reason it should be too. So it seemed like a great opportunity.
That is interesting background from both of you guys. I'm familiar with Chris Bernisky from Placeholder, and I know he's like super into Decred, which is a coin I used to be into, and went to some events in San Francisco and saw him talk there. But I didn't realize he was from ARK. I guess I didn't even realize Cathie Wood started ARK that long ago, to be honest.
Yeah, she started in 2014. Chris was like one of the founding analysts. I joined. I reached out to him, so he hired me. And in my next life, I hired Tyler. So it's like this. It's just like a long chain of events that flows.
Cool. And Tyler, I hope you actually finished your degree, even though you're not using it at all. But cool. I have a PhD in materials engineering. But I worked in material science for 6 or 7 years, but I'm like full-time crypto now too.
Oh man, all of us. We used to add value to the world. Now we just swap goblin coins.
I like to think that there's at least some aspects of cryptocurrency that add value to the world. But yeah, that's a fair point, probably for the most part. I think that's actually the ETF thing is pretty cool. And I guess my really initial question is like this, I would assume avoids any like capital gain transactions because you guys are rebalancing the asset and the user that or the customer that holds the asset is just holding this quote unquote ETF and they're not exchanging the underlying assets.
Yeah, so we don't want to like give tax advice, but in most jurisdictions, yes, even though it rebalances, like it doesn't count as a taxable event every time it rebalances. It's only on the buy or sell.
Is that because you guys have been using the word ETF a little bit and saying I think that it's like an ETF, but obviously it's not like a is it, I don't know, is it like a registered security with the SEC?
No, we have ERC20 tokens. So I guess right now we have 3 products and they're ecosystem tokens. So we have an Ethereum ecosystem token, Polygon, and Solana. And what those are essentially is it takes the top projects in each ecosystem, and that's what's in each index. We have the top lending and borrowing platform and the top decentralized exchange tokens. And then, of course,
and by top, that's all just judged by market cap.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into how it works, but yeah, essentially we look at market cap and then like how much liquidity these tokens have in the decentralized exchanges on the respective chain. And then we use that to determine the allocation percentage in each of our tokens. And then every month on the first of the month, it'll rebalance based on the new like market cap and liquidity. And then if there's a new token that meets our requirements, then it'll be added into the index. So it's very passive and it's all smart contract based. So it's not like there's me or James like picking which tokens go into it and choosing the allocation percentage. I would encourage, if you're interested, to go on our Git book. It explains the process for like how tokens are included and how it's rebalanced, so you can predict what's going to happen on each rebalance. Very similar to the probably the biggest ETF is SPY, the Spider S&P 500 index. It's the top 500 U.S. companies by market cap, so it's like easy to see what's going to happen, like what allocation percent is going to be in the next rebalance. So that's why we say it's very similar, but these are ERC20 tokens that are on chain.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense, I think. And you guys are based in the United States?
We live in the United States, but we have employees everywhere.
But is the company itself registered in the is the entity of the corporation in the United States?
So the entity for Amun, which is, we have a sister company, 21 Shares. Amun itself is registered in the Seychelles. So it's registered in an island that's favorable with crypto regulation. Our sister company is registered, but we operate in the US. Like we have office and people here.
I'm always interested in the kind of legal and corporate structure behind some of these new products because it's a very murky world in terms of regulations and stuff. So I like to try and understand how people are operating as much as they're willing to share.
Totally. Yeah. It was more neutral territory and more friendly territory for crypto. Like the US famously is not, when we use DeFi, the US ends up in the same list of countries as North Korea and Syria. That's a bizarre situation. And we didn't, that's not a situation we wanted to operate under. The Seychelles was our choice.
Cool. I think I had one more question that is escaping me right at the moment. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to discuss up front or anything you wanted to share?
Yeah. So our tokens, obviously, you can check it out on our website. These are all released and we have stuff coming out later. On the ETF point earlier, I worked in the ETF industry before, and it strikes me as interesting. We compare to ETFs, but in many ways, we're a lot more we're a lot more deterministic than ETFs. With the ETFs, passive ETFs like the SPY is just like top 500 companies in the US by market cap. But the way it operates is filled with these weird bylaws, and there are actually people in there guiding the decision-making process as well. So it's not this automated rule-based thing. It's somewhat rule-based, of course, and largely reflects a market cap, but it has all these human elements as well. So when Tesla entered, the SPY, it was like this not super obvious thing. And it's like literally just a group of men in a room, sometimes making determinations of whether something fits their definition of eligibility criteria. And that's not like crypto on a truly on-chain smart contract doesn't operate that way at all. Like the way we design our tokens is...
So can I butt in real quick and just ask, when you say that you guys' product is offered as an ERC20 token, is there like a script that's working off chain to rebalance your holdings, and that those holdings are tied by law to those tokens or by trust or whatever? But it's not like the rebalancing is written into the smart contract itself, right?
The rebalancing is written into the smart contract. That's the thing.
Okay, that's interesting.
So here's the litmus test of whether you're really decentralized and whether an index token on chain really works as maximally as intended, taking advantage of the blockchain. The litmus test is if Tyler and I and all the devs just disappeared. I don't know, our bus crashed into the jungle. We can't find our way out. Does the product still work in a year, 2 years, 50 years? Will it still rebalance? Will it still make sense and operate autonomously? You know what Bankless calls DeFi, like autonomous money robot. And that's what we've been working towards, which during each rebalance, the smart contract looks at the data sources and see, hey, what are the tokens eligible for inclusion?
So for data sources, is that like Chainlink and the graph, and like directly from Uniswap contract, or what are the data sources there?
It's a bunch. It's definitely got exchange-based data sources. We also use DeFi Llama if we're assessing TVL or whether they belong in a certain ecosystem, because a lot of these things are deployed across multiple chains. So basically right now it's not, I would say it's not bulletproof, because DeFi Llama is looks like a one-man army, but everyone uses it. But over time, hopefully it becomes more robust and we incorporate more data sources. Just like a fairly robust contract would use multiple data sources, that's what we're trying to do. And I think with time, basically it means that the smart contract can look at the data sources, make the right weight determinations, and then goes on to the DEXs and makes the buys and sells as necessary to rebalance the product, and then reconstitutes the basket so that every month there's basically a new kind of index provided. Yeah, and our goal is to get it to a level of robustness where we can all vanish into thin air, and this contract will work hopefully until the end of the time, or at least the end of the blockchain.
Okay, I remembered what my question was, and it wasn't a question. It was just a comment that I think that we were talking about Cathie Wood a little bit, and she was like super hot shit about 15 months ago with her active investing strategy, where she is picking stocks and totally hands-on managing the portfolio. But generally speaking, I think you guys probably have the more traditional and like longer term proven successful approach of having this kind of passive rule-based investing and just expanding that to these new asset classes.
Yeah, that's right. Cathie's performance has been phenomenal. And of course, the market has completely been punked recently, but ARK has only ever made one performance claim every time it's talked about its investment philosophy, and that it aims to outperform the market over a full market cycle. And right now we're in a down cycle. So if you're going to measure its performance, you should measure peak to peak or trough to trough. And I think over that cycle, it's still doing pretty well.
Now you're defending Cathie Wood. I was trying to say you guys are the way to go.
No, active strategy can be good, right? It's not like saying is the SPY better than the hedge fund. It depends on which hedge fund. It depends on what time. These are all valid options depending on your goals, right? It's not that I'm not aiming to defend.
Yeah. I was just trying to lob you a softball, and then you took the others.
Yeah, that was way better. Just kidding. There's two flavors. It's, do you want the market to decide what gets added, which is essentially what we're doing. We're looking at market cap and liquidity, because people put money into things with higher market cap usually, because it's how they get the higher market cap, but that's what gets added. We're not trying to pick which one's going to go up later, which one's not. I feel like if people wanted to do that, they'd probably do it themselves rather than allow someone else to do it. Maybe they allow someone else to do it if they continuously outperformed the market, but I don't think that's too common. But yeah, there's a lot of different strategies.
Okay. Do you guys want to maybe invite some users up and see if they have questions from the audience?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I just invited a couple guys up. Coffee Pizza Sushi Dick and Taxable Citizen.
Nice.
And we got a True Ohio Playa. There we go. We got somebody up on stage now. Ohio Playa, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate it. Is the purpose of, let's say, SOLI or PECO to outperform just holding Solana or just holding MATIC? Is that the goal? If Solana returns 10% in a month, is it supposed to do 12 or?
I like that. I like you've been looking into it. Our tokens. Yeah, the goal really, I mean, in terms of like outperform, underperform, Like the goal is to have a basket, or have the tokens in the ecosystem. So really, if the tokens on Solana underperform Solana, like our token will probably underperform Solana just because that's how it's designed. In a bull market where these altcoins are, popping off like we saw last year, 2 years ago, like then they will probably outperform Solana. Yeah, I guess the end goal is definitely to have the highest performance as possible, but it really depends. Sometimes Solana's going to outperform the token, sometimes Soli's going to outperform Solana. It really depends on the time horizon. It's like the people that are like, oh, if you bought gold 10 years ago versus Bitcoin, you'd have $1 billion Bitcoin, but gold lost money. And then same argument could be said if you bought Bitcoin last year versus gold, like you're actually down more with Bitcoin. And it's very easy to cherry pick the numbers. We could cherry pick it where SOLI outperforms the market, and someone could cherry pick, say it underperformed. But to answer your question, yeah, the goal is to have the best performance as possible.
Gotcha. Appreciate it.
I have another question while we wait and see if anybody else wants to come up here and ask something. So I'm looking now at like your DeFi index token, and I guess you have Loopring in there and the graph token, but like how do you really define DeFi? Like what makes something a DeFi token and not a DAO token, or where would Ape token fall in that kind of categorization?
Yes, that's a really good question. And that's also one of the struggles of like DAOs and decentralized picking. So the way that the DFI token was set up, it was about a year ago, was it looked at Coingecko, and there's a little tag that you can put on the tokens, or that Coingecko puts on the tokens. One of them's Ethereum ecosystem. So that one takes the top 8 tokens by market cap that have the tag Ethereum ecosystem, and then gets rid of the ones that are stable coins, and I think maybe something else. So that's how it comes up with those 8. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just leaning on CoinGecko to pick what fits in that category at this point?
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yeah, CoinGecko is one of our data sources. DeFi Llama is one of our data sources. Obviously CoinGecko is not a decentralized DAO or anything, but it's like our way of having a external or as close as possible neutral data source to classify these, because otherwise it's very hard to make any determination what is DeFi, what is just like infrastructure, without making subjective calls. And it sometimes might be easier to do that in the short term, but you have to make those calls now all the time.
In my opinion, it really seems like everything is, there probably 18 months ago, even 12 months ago, there was like a pretty clear line between what is an NFT, what is a DAO, and what is a DeFi token. But now it's a DeFi like these tokens they really represent governance within that ecosystem. They're all basically DAO tokens, and it just seems really hard to draw a line
where there's kind of lines between them. Now there's like these NFT DAOs.
Right. Actually, it came up because I saw you guys have Aave, and Aave's symbol is the little Aavegotchi ghost. And especially the Aavegotchi, I feel, is a great example of it, where it's like this ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, where they have NFTs, they have their native ghost token, and it all kind of mushes together or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And then like Doodles has a thing where they have the Doodle Bank, where it's a treasury where the Doodle holders can vote on what coins go in the treasury. And then like with Bored Ape Yacht Club, they have the Ape token. So yeah, it's all just like becoming blurred. Like I'm sure Doodle's going to come out with their token. So, trying to do everything all at the same time.
So do you guys have any plans to try and, I guess 2 questions, like capture some of the NFT market, since that's really been booming for the last year or so, and whether that would be like having an Ape, like maybe a fund that holds Ape and Ghost and other stuff like that, or even just you could just have an NFT fund where you're holding apes and punks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's one question. And then beyond that, like do you have anything you can share about how you're going to move beyond CoinGecko to try and tackle some of this stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So for the second question, we do have the ability for the token holders to initiate snapshot votes, or like us to initiate snapshot votes. And then the token holders vote to change the methodology or change how the tokens are weighted. Cool. Yeah, so there's like that lever too, where the community decides what it is. But to the NFT point, yeah, that's something we're definitely looking into. I like these metaverse NFTs.
Hey, like where does like Sandbox and Decentraland fit into that? Is it an NFT? Is it a DAO? Is it DeFi?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's something where, with the index funds, we could really, do anything. It's just a matter of like research. Is it a good idea? Like, are people going to be excited about this? So we started with the ecosystem tokens because those are the simplest to understand, the simplest to create and make the rebalance strategies. But now that it's proven that it works and the rebalances go correctly and there's some history in the tokens, like now we can get more creative. And we've also looked at doing fractionalized NFTs, having like a NFT thing. It's just, there's a lot of challenges with that. And I think that's why there's only a few projects that have done it. And if you look at the projects that have done like fractionalized ownership, I think most of them end up like just liquidating their treasury. Yeah. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I've definitely seen there was a lot at ETH Denver on fractionalizing NFTs and then leveraging that to take a loan or whatever. But yeah, it really seems like everything is merging in all of those different spaces. So it does seem very difficult to make a set of rules about how to divide things into categories at this moment in time, at least.
Yeah, and you can have multiple labels that work for the same token. Like for Decentraland, it could be like a crypto gaming thing. It could be an NFT thing. Like it can be true for multiple categories at the same time. So you don't have to like hardcore make it. It's not exclusionary. It's just like an ETF construction. You can have a stock that's both a tech stock and a biotech stock. But having good data sources, I think, very important. And definitely, I think we need better, more mature versions than the two that's out there today.
Yeah, especially if you look at, I know CoinMarketCap, this was probably 3-4 months ago. I forget what happened, but all the coins on there were over $1 billion per coin. Remember my dad even
Yeah, CoinMarketCap fucks up about twice a year because I use them for, if you go to old Reddit and go to the cryptocurrency sub, there's like a little price ticker. And like I depend on Bitcoin being number one in order for like my regex to work. And it gets messed up twice a year and I have to go fix it by hand because they always have some crap going on.
Yeah. Remember my dad texted me, can I cash out a little bit? Sent me like $1 billion Bitcoin.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But yeah, because imagine if we use that data source for like our rebalancing. I'm sure we have like emergency stops if something's definitely out of whack, which that definitely is. You could imagine where there'd be problems. That's how like Chainlink got so big, was there's the Oracle problem. Like what actually is the price of Ethereum? Is it the price on Binance? Is it the price in Uniswap? Like you ask someone, they have different answers. So that's where Chainlink was like, we'll just look at all of them. Chainlink has the data sources that look at all the exchanges, and then they aggregate all of the projects that like aggregate the data sources. So like they're like an aggregator of aggregators. So that's why it's like common for people to trust the Chainlink Oracle rather than like Coingecko, let's say. But yeah.
Cool. And I think when we were setting this up, maybe that there was something about, are you guys planning to offer like a layer one index fund? Would that be like just top 10 cryptocurrency market by market cap or something?
Yeah, so that's something we're looking at doing next. There's the very simple, kind of boring, but I think pretty cool, is like the top cryptos by market cap. So just like SPY, how it's top 500 companies by market cap, like we could do that with crypto. But yeah, the more interesting one would be the layer one token. So that'll look at Binance Smart Chain, Phantom, Avalanche, Polygon, on all those. And we haven't fully decided how the methodology is going to work. There's things we can look at, like the total value locked in each chain, or the amount of users, or the market.
But you guys aren't going to include Bitcoin or anything that's not a smart contract chain?
Right, yeah, for that one, no. It wouldn't be Bitcoin.
Okay, because I guess the possibility is there to use wrapped Bitcoin or something and you auto rebalance still.
Yeah, we definitely use Bitcoin for the overall blockchain index, the biggest token, so it should be part of it. But for the layer one token, that'll just be strictly the like smart contract platforms.
Cool. No meme coin index coming out.
You know, I was thinking about that. That would be pretty cool.
Elon is very disappointed in you guys.
Yeah, we'll have it so you can purchase cars with the meme coin index, purchase Teslas.
Hey, I did have one question, man. I saw that at least on that SOLI token, you guys are going to start actually having a fee starting next year, 2023. How are you going to see that in the token? Is like a certain amount going to be taken away, or does it just rebalance every month?
I had actually a similar question. I was curious how you guys, like, because you're making analogies to ETFs, and every ETF has a fee associated with it, right? So, like, how do you guys make money, and like, how is that fee going to be taken?
So it's going to work just like how the traditional ETFs take fees. I think they just do it like on rebalance. They'll like take a portion. I actually don't know.
I don't know the implementation details. I think there is a proposal, but we haven't implemented that piece yet. But it's likely to be on the rebalance, is my feeling as well.
So I know we're still a ways away, but I was just wondering how it was going to work.
So right now there's no fees, but then that'd be something for like engineers to answer. But I think there's something in the contract where it'll take a portion of the rebalance, but it's not we're taking tokens out of the user's wallet, because that's obviously impossible. You don't have the private keys. But yeah, it'd be a small fee. I think.
But you guys will just take 0.1% on the rebalance and convert it to US dollar tether and send it to your wallet or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 0.1% on each rebalance.
Yeah, the target fee is for DFI is under 1%. For SOLI is 1.5% annually.
That's higher than Cathie Wood, even.
Cathie Wood doesn't have right smart contracts.
That's true. Not yet, at least. Anyone else in the audience want to raise their hand? I probably invited like 10 people up to speak, and so far we only got True Ohio Player. So thank you for coming up and asking a couple questions.
What questions should we be asking that we're not? Like, what is it? Something you want to share?
Yeah, I guess my question is, if you guys obviously know about crypto, if you're in the cryptocurrency Reddit, like, what's your opinion on these index funds? Like, maybe not our current ones, you don't have to comment on that, but just like the idea of them. What do you think? Do you have an idea of like,
and what problems can they solve for you? It doesn't have to be strictly on the current set, but on this class of ideas, like, what would be helpful for you guys?
I think I haven't dove into it myself yet, but I'm intrigued by your guys' platform, and I guess ultimately it would be really nice if it wasn't just an ERC20 token and you could hold it in your IRA or whatever, and there was actually like a security either alongside, or if you guys had a token on Securitize or something, I don't know.
So that's actually what our sister company does, 21 Shares. They actually have a couple of these index tokens. I know one's called HODL, but it's listed on the Switzerland Stock Exchange and a few others in Europe, where it's actually like a security. I don't know the full details, but yeah, it's something that's been done. It's just there's a lot of regulation.
Yeah, I understand, and it's just, but I think if their goal is to get like passive investors, which you would generally assume to be people that don't want to check the cryptocurrency subreddit and Twitter every day and try and stay on top of everything, I would think that they're looking for something easy and probably as regulated as possible. They want something that is, I don't want to say centralized, but I guess centralized and like accepted by their government or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely get that. That's another challenge we have too with the current tokens. They're on a few centralized exchanges, but really the best way to get them is you have to be on the native chain that we built the token on. So like for SOLI, you buy it on Solana chain, which is simple for users of Solana, but someone that doesn't know.
Yeah, like exactly. That's
you gotta explain like, oh, you gotta get Phantom Wallet, and then you gotta buy Solana on an exchange and send it to your Phantom Wallet, and then you get like this big string of characters, the wallet address, and then you just give up.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Jamie? You jumped on stage. You might need to unmute yourself first.
Hello?
Hey, we can hear you now. That's good.
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. I just came in and out, and I just saw the title, like, how to make cryptocurrency more accessible. I'm fairly new to the whole space, and there's something that's been eyeing my attention. That's staking and yield farming. And, like, I've set up a couple thousand, pounds for me, like, just to, because I am interested in actually staking, because that looks more easier for me to do. But I'm just wondering how exactly does it work? Like, is it like, I know it has to have like a proof of work network, and then you get like a certain percentage of the blockchain or something like that? I'm just curious exactly how staking works. It would be good to hear from actual experts rather than just reading stuff online.
Like the proof of stake?
Hello? Oh, I hope you heard that. I hope I didn't mute myself.
Yeah, you came through, and I think that's a good point.
Yes, okay.
Is since you're holding, especially like for the layer 1 tokens where they're proof of stake, are you guys going to roll those staking rewards back into the fund?
So-
And if there's any kind of yield farming or anything that you can do with all of these DeFi tokens that you're holding, does that get like farmed and then reinvested?
I'll answer JB's base question, and Tyler could chime in on how we deal with that. Like how staking works for basically whether you're proof of work or proof of stake, the blockchain itself by design issues new coins. This is the emissions, this is the inflation. Bitcoin issues some, and I don't know what the number is anymore. Ethereum, I think, issues 2 per block, and this is just metered mathematically. And the issuance typically decreases over time, so it doesn't go to infinity supply, otherwise it becomes worthless. So yeah, if you stake, you basically get a proportion of the staking rewards, that the new kind of minted coins that happens with every block. This is just pretty standard for all these tokens, and it's just to incentivize you to, in proof of stake systems, incentivize you to lock up your tokens so that you can verify transactions, so that the network itself can be regarded as decentralized. It's just token, very standard incentive schemes that's built into the blockchain kind of scheme to make sure all the actors are working together.
Okay, yeah, that's actually pretty comprehensive. Yeah, thanks for that.
Sure. Yeah, and then Jay Winter, for your question on, there's definitely rewards to be got if you're on the chain. We started doing it with SOLI, launched 3 months ago, but there's actually a protocol in there called Marinade. They stake Solana to validators and take the yields, and essentially they have a coin called MSOL, which it's liquid staked Solana, where the price of the token actually gains with the staked Solana that they get from the validators. So the inflation for validators on Solana is 6%, something like that, per year. So what they do is they distribute Solana to these validators and then take the money, and then it works very similar to compound C tokens, where there's no airdrop or anything. It's just the price of the token goes up versus the base asset. And instead of using SOL for our SOLI token, we use MSOL, which is staked SOL. So yes, we do give back the staking rewards. And since there's no airdrop or anything, we don't have to deal with that. It's just the price of MSOL appreciates versus just SOL. So if you look at like SOL versus MSOL price graph, you'll see MSOL goes higher than SOL. So that's why we use that.
I guess that's like the staking part of it, but I think I'm not like a DeFi degenerate, but you can do yield farming and stuff with Aave, right?
So currently we don't lend and borrow out any of the tokens, just because it adds complexity to the smart contracts. Because when we rebalance, we'd have to like unlend or unborrow and then trade and then re-lend. So that just adds like another piece of complexity, especially with Aave. I think the yield you get for lending is like under 1% or something. So I don't even know if that would pay for the gas fees. But there are tokens like SOL and MATIC that can be staked for like relatively cheap. And right now with our Polygon ecosystem token, PECO, we just have regular MATIC, but there are 2 projects now that have like liquid staking MATIC that we could add to give the users the staking bonus.
Yeah. Flowing
That's
juice.
perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. First of all, I think I missed like the first half of the call and whatnot, but my question was, so I saw that you guys have raised 4 million back in 2019, and I guess I just wanted to ask, so I'm sorry if I missed your names, but is James, who's on the call right now? Is it James, and who else from Amun?
Yeah, James is J1, and then I'm Tyler. Pop-Tarts
James
View.
and Tyler. Okay. So I guess my question would be, so right now we're working on the project, which is, so we're trying to work on like decentralized system, and it's related to sports. I can't really talk about it a lot, but on here at least. But I was just wondering, so for your raising efforts, who did you guys reach out to? If you could just give like high level advice, I would say I would be greatly appreciated.
So that was before our time at the company. That was actually really before Amun was even born. So that was for our sister company, 21 Shares, the regulated entity. I guess we don't know how that was done. But I would say that fundraising for DAOs and like the decentralized stuff is a lot more challenging than the like regulated crypto projects like exchanges.
But I would imagine that $4 million that was raised for the company and a share of the company, that was more a traditional VC raise, not like an ICO or anything like that, right?
Got it. So you guys never had an ICO?
Right. Yeah. Our tokens it's kind of different than the traditional tokens where the price is just free flows based on market supply and demand. Like our tokens are actually backed by the actual tokens that are in the basket. If you go on our smart contracts, like you can see all the tokens that are locked, and each one of those tokens has a price, like ETH, Chainlink, Loopring coins, and you can see like how many tokens our smart contract holds times the price, and then you can look at the total number of outstanding tokens, like our DFI tokens, and just take the total market cap divided by the tokens, and then like that's the price that our token should be.
Okay.
And that's the price like you can actually mint our tokens at.
No, that makes total sense. But I guess my question would be, so how does company essentially generates money? Because if you guys are fee free until 2023, and as you said right now, your tokens are backed by the other tokens that you bought. So basically, the price of your token should fluctuate according to the price of the underlying tokens, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So then how does Amun generate revenue right now in its current state?
Currently, we're not generating revenue. We're not aiming to generate revenue. It's like the same attitude as an early stage startup. You're trying to gain users and customers, gain some traction before you turn on the monitor.
Got it.
Because there's no need to add friction up front. We're basically venture funded to start the process. But yeah, the goal eventually is to generate revenue from the actual products. I don't know, depending on the kind of, are you guys raising as a protocol or what structure?
No, so it's basically going to be a DAO. And actually, it would be like since you guys are based in New York, I added you both on LinkedIn, but it would be great if you guys host any events, like we could just attend them. But even if you guys are around, I'd be glad to like treat you to coffee with my co-founder for 5-10 minutes, not to take up too much of your time, to like maybe dive in a little bit more on what the project is actually about.
Oh, okay. I think this environment is probably the most favorable for founders right now in crypto.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally. I'm not sure if you guys were at the Solana in like Miami 2 weeks ago, because we were there. I didn't see the stand with Amun or anything. That's what we're planning on. We want to build it on Solana. So that's also, but also the issue of tokenomics. I guess that's one of the challenges that we're facing right now, because you have so many levers to structure the way the token is allocated and distributed.
Solana has a pretty large ecosystem fund, and they support like people building on the ecosystem. Have you guys considered like applying for one of those?
Yeah, we'll be applying for grants.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go, and try to build an early community and show your, I don't know what degree it's showable, but like showing it to people who are already investors, who are known as like angels in the space or invested in the space. I think a lot of them can help bootstrap your initial traction, as well as maybe give you some advice on tokenomics.
For sure. That sounds good. And do you ever host any events for Amun, or maybe you guys part of any upcoming conferences anytime soon?
Yeah, we will be at Permissionless in Palm Beach next month.
Can you say it again? Permissionless in Palm Beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty big conference. If you Google it, it should come up.
All right.
I would just caution that if you're based in the United States and you're planning on releasing a DAO token, if you're successful, you should be careful. You want to be careful in case you're successful, I think, because if you're not successful, no one's going to care. But you can look at what Bored Apes did, right? Like, why did Bored Apes set up some shell company in the Cayman Islands or whatever, which is the actual distributor of ape token? There was a legal reason why they did that. You definitely would want to talk to lawyers as well, at least somewhat.
That's 100%. Like, we have people who, like, not people, but friends of ours who already work on different projects, and we actually had a conversation about like where to base off the company, like the offshore stages and whatnot. I get what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to throw my word of caution in there because that's something that I've done a little bit of looking into recently, and maybe that's part of the reason why Amun is not a DAO. I don't know. It's just so murky right now, legally and regulatory wise, that there's a lot of people who are just going for it and let the chips fall where they may. But just, I would definitely get some legal advice. Do we have anybody else who has questions on Amun? Or
and I guess my last question would be, James, coming from the product background, do you think that kind of helped you to propel and to take this to like next level? I know you're still growing, but like, do you think that was like an important skill, like to come from a product background? Do you think it's important to involve people with product background in the first place? For example, like I know it's not exactly the same as an actual product, but do you think that kind of helped you to propel Amun to the next level.
How do you mean involve them in the creation?
To visualize it, then to, I don't know, put it in steps, the progression steps.
I'm not sure how to approach this. If you're going to create a DAO, you're creating it for something. So that vision is your first step. So I think selling that story is probably the most important thing you can do at the beginning. If it's not like the constitutional DAO thing, it's literally a story and a meme of something that you want to participate in. So it really depends on your DAO, but that kind of determines your first set of customers. I don't know, what is your DAO about?
No, but I understand. It's just that I don't really feel comfortable talking about it here, but it makes sense. Thank you for the answer.
Sure.
Cool. Thanks for coming on Flowing Juice. We got one more person with their hand up, Jared Leto, which sounds familiar for some reason, who I just invited up. And he is on stage. Did you have a question, Jared? Or did you have a last question, Ohio Playa?
I did have one, man. Maybe you guys can just share a little bit. When I get on your Amun website, there's just that whole kind of like disclaimer or about not in these particular countries. Can you shed any light on that, or restricted countries?
Yeah, so that was like what our legal team has to put up as an abundance of caution. Just so that's something I was going to mention earlier too, when you guys talked about like it's a good and a bad thing to have a legal team, because they restrict some things you can do, but they're also like making sure you don't get in trouble down the road. So yeah, the restricted countries is just where there's a gray area where it's even a lot of stuff you could do on chain. Let's say LP farming. If you look at securities law, like some people say, oh, that's not legal to do in the US and some other jurisdictions. So it's very easy to do. So yeah, it was just an abundance of caution, the warning.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Legal team should be a net benefit, right? Not going to jail or getting sued for a lot of money is usually a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with working, like you mentioned before, with these like regulated exchanges and people putting these tokens in their IRA, like that's definitely something to have on your side, to have lawyers talking to these companies to get them added rather than just some random anonymous team.
Yeah, for sure. If your goal is to get on Coinbase or even more like Fidelity or whatever, absolutely.
Yeah, they'd never add some project owned by like Koala Master 69 and no one knows his name or anything.
Not in the near future, I guess. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe in 20 years. Okay, cool. I guess it's been about an hour that we've been talking now, so I don't want to keep you guys too long. And I think we got a good number of questions from the audience and stuff. So thank you for coming on and talking to us about it. It's a really interesting product that you guys are offering. And I guess I'm going to go out and get a couple now that you guys have shilled me on the Amun token. And yeah, did you have anything else you want to close with or anything?
Yeah, I'll just close by saying, like, literally any comments, good or bad, feel free to reach out to us. We have our like Twitter on the website, and then also I'm at ETH Tyler on Twitter. Like, my DMs are open. Any questions, comments, be happy to hear it. If you think our product sucks, let me know.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again for coming on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, James.
No, I was just saying follow us on Twitter and Discord. And yeah, we're happy to chat our stuff or just industry in general. Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys again. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.